Okay. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Oh, goodness. All right. Shabbat shalom. We are back. We are continuing on with our look through Exodus. We were actually about done with Exodus. We got this chapter and one more to go. We'll be moving into Leviticus, but we want to this week continue or kind of be revisiting the look at the priests and their garments, thinking about the what the garments can represent for us in terms of us being followers of Messiah and a nation of kings and priests. So we want to again revisit this idea over here and see what we can gain from these verses over here. We want to talk about looking the part. Looking the part. That's what we're going to be dealing with today with this chapter. So we'll go ahead. Hold on one second. Let me find these. Pull these scriptures up here. Hold on one second. Okay, let's just go ahead and read. We'll read through the chapter, go through this chapter here, and then we'll deal with a couple of things that we find inside. If we just start over here with the first verse.
It says, and of the blue and purple and scarlet material, they made woven garments to do service in the set apart place, and they made the set apart garments which were for Aaron, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And he made the shoulder garment of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen. And they beat out sheets of gold and cut it into threads to work it in the blue and purple and scarlet material, and the fine linen, the work of a skilled workman. They made shoulder pieces for it to join it. Go on a little bit. It was joined to it at its two edges, and the embroidered band of his shoulder garment that was of the same work of gold and blue and purple and scarlet material and of fine woven linen, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And they made the shoham stones set in plated work of gold, engraven as sennets are engraven, according to the names of the sons of Israel. And he had put them on the shoulders of the garment, stones of remembrance for the sons of Israel, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And he made the breastplate, a work of a skilled workman, like the work of the shoulder garment of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen. It was square. They made the breastplate double, its length a span, its width a span, double. And they filled it with 4 rows of stones, a row of ruby, topaz, and an emerald was the first row. The second row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row was Junkus. How you say that?
Jason.
Jason. Okay. An agate and amethyst.
Amethyst.
And the four, do I read like I look at the KJV and just say that?
Amethyst,
Okay. And the fourth row of beryl, shoam, and a jasper set in plated work of gold in their settings. And the stones were according to the names of the son of Israel, 12 according to their names, engraved like the senate, each one with its own name according to the 12 tribes. And they made braided chains of corded work for the breastplate at the end of clean gold. And they made 2 settings of gold and 2 gold rings, and put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And they put they put 2 cords of gold, the 2 rings. Okay, I did read that. All right, and the 2 ends of the 2 cords they fastened in the 2 settings and put them on the shoulder pieces of the shoulder garment in the front. And they made 2 rings of gold and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate on the edge of it, which was on the inward side of the shoulder garment. And they made 2 gold rings and put them on the 2 shoulder pieces underneath the shoulder garment on the front of it, close to the seam above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment. And they bound the breastplate by means of its rings to the rings of the shoulder garment with a blue cord, so that it would be above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, and that the breastplate would not come loose from the shoulder garment, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And he made the robe of the shoulder garment of woven work, all blue, and the opening of the robe was in the middle, like the opening in a scaled armor, with a woven binding all around the opening, so that it would not tear. And they made the hem of the robe pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet material twine. And they made bells of clean gold and put the bells between the pomegranates of the hem of the robe, all around between the pomegranates, a bell and a pomegranate, a bell and a pomegranate, all around the hem of the robe for the service, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. They made the long shirt of fine linen, the work of a weaver for Aaron and his sons, and the turban of fine linen, and the turban ornaments of fine linen, and short trousers of fine woven linen, and a girded of fine woven linen with blue and purple scarlet material, the work of an embroiderer, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And they made the plate of the set apart sign of dedication of clean gold, and wrote in it an inscription like the engraving of the signet, set apartness to Yahweh. and they put on it a blue cord to fasten it above the turban as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And all this with this pole to be in um, utensils for the service of the dwelling place, for the tent of the appointment, the woven garments to do service in the set apart place, the set apart garments for Aaron, the priest, and his son's garments to serve as priests according to all that Yahweh had commanded Moshe. So the children of Israel did all the work. And Moshe looked over all the work and saw that they did as Yahweh had commanded. So they had done, and Moshe blessed them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a thing with the connectivity, but it came back up. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, very good. So we see last week when we looked at this over here, we saw that we talked about really the cost, the value of the tabernacle and all the things that was incorporated in it. But over here, we see kind of a big, a long description of, in terms of the priest, the beautifulness of the priest and his garments, all of the different jewels and gold and the woven works that that went into the making of all of the garments. And so it kind of made me just want to kind of talk about a little bit the idea that there's a way that the we'll say the servants of the Most High should look, right? And so the high priest, well, if we just, what we saw for the most part was talking about the high priest, right? And so the high priests were differentiated from the other priests, the priests that kind of just were kind of like the workers in the tabernacle. But even the regular priests, quote unquote, were there was a distinction between them and just your common Israelite, right? But even when we think about just Israel as a whole, even Israel had a look about them, right? That we see prescribed in the scriptures. And so even though we see kind of different things with, just a regular uh, 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 instructions that's given to Israel in terms of their look that we have. When we look at the Israel or the priest or the high priest, they all really are giving you, even though it's different ways that the scripture gives it to you, it's really still kind of first of all a picture of just set apartness, but also there is a beauty that's involved in it, and the beauty that's involved causes you to look towards the Most High. And so we want to think about these things, as we go through. But it caused me to think about something that we see over in Revelation, because when we look over at these verses here, when it gets to the shoulder plate and the breast plate with the onyx and the different jewels on the on the breastplate, and everything's encased in gold. It caused me to think about this, what we see over in Revelation. So I want to go over here real quick and look. Revelation 21, verse 9. If you could start reading over at verse 9.
It says, and one of the seven messengers who held the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and spoke with me, saying, come, I shall show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. He carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, a set apart Jerusalem, descending out of the heaven from Elohim.
Okay, so it's interesting that it says over here, you have this messenger, right, who says that I'm about to show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb, right? So he's saying, I'm about to show you the Lamb's wife. And then the next thing you see coming down is this city, Jerusalem, descending out of heaven, right? And so it's not as if he said, I'm going to show you the wife, and then some other thing happens, right? He said, I'm going to show you the bride, I'm going to show you the wife, and then he showed it to you. And what it was Jerusalem coming down. Okay, keep on going.
And having the esteem of Elohim in her light was like the most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal.
Okay, so her is the bride, right? Her is the bride, the wife, Jerusalem coming down, right? The esteem Jerusalem coming down, who's the bride and the wife, has the esteem of Elohim, and her light was started to go into all these beautiful stones and things, right? Okay, 12. What does that
say? Having a great and high wall, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 messengers, and the names written on them, which were the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and one of them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. And he who spoke with me had a golden measuring rod to measure the city and its gates and its all, and the city lies four corner, and its length is as great as its breadth. And he measured the city with the rod, 12,000 stadia. uh, the length, the breadth, and the height of it are equal.
Okay, so it's a square. It's cube, I guess. But it's interesting when we was reading the Torah portion was talking about the ephod. It talked about the ephod as being a square also.
Mm.
And then also that was the place where the stones were on this square thing. And the jewels in the square were representative of Israel. And then so we look at this thing over here where the gates or the places on the wall where the of the boundaries or the borders of this place was 12 gates, which was representative of the 12 tribes of Israel, just like the positions on the ephod were significant of the 12 tribes of Israel. It talked about the the gates being the tribes and the walls being the apostles, who also had these signifiers that represented the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, so that was go ahead at 17 there.
And he measured its wall 144 forearms, according to the measure of a man, that is, of a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And the structure of its wall was jasper, and the city was clean gold, like clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were adorned in all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, and the fourth emerald.
Mm-hmm.
The fifth sardonyx. Is that what you said?
Yeah, sardonyx.
The sixth ruby, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprase,
Mm-hmm.
the 11th
Jacinth,
and the 12th amethyst. The 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl, and the street of the city was clean gold, like transparent glass.
Okay, very good. So when we look over here again, all of this description is the bride coming down. But the bride coming down was being described as the city coming down, Jerusalem, with the gates and the walls that had the names of the 12 tribes and the 12 apostles. And so we have, this representation of the bride, of course, being those that have joined themselves to the master Yeshua, right? Coming down from the heavens and resting on the earth, right? Right. This is that time when we talking about this, the new heavens and the new earth, right? The city coming down. We talk about people, dying and going to heaven and all that. The scripture don't really talk to us about these kinds of things, right? You die and you go to sleep, and Paul talks about absent from the body, present with the Lord. So people say, oh, you absent from the body, so that means you present with the Lord. But I think probably a better way to think about that is absent from the body. Next thing you know, when you wake up, then you present with the Lord after he come down. It's not like you going up there to be with him and then you coming back. Like you get called up to be with him at a specific time. That's when you are there with him. It's not like you die and go to heaven. You die and you go to sleep. And then whenever the time comes, you get woken up. It's just as if you went right over there. But that's not what happened. You died. People dying all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you sleep until
judgment,
right?
And that's gonna be like you didn't even cross.
Just like going to sleep. We go to sleep now. Yeah. You sleep for hours.
One procession of time.
And when you wake up, well, it seemed like I just because you was asleep. All right. And so anyway, we're talking about the city coming down, but when we think about the city coming down, it reminds us of what we looked at in the Torah portion with the beautiful garments that the priest had, right? And again, the city coming down being Israel is Jerusalem, right? And so when we think about this, it causes us to think about the way that we should be as the bride of Elohim. We are Yeshua's bride, right? And so the priest wasn't walking around here just looking regular, right? He didn't look regular. He looked set apart, right? And then when we get to the bottom of all of this, it's not necessarily just about notice I said necessarily. It's not necessarily about just like flashiness, right? Because these stones and these jewels and these pearls and this gold was beautiful, but at the end of the day, what it represents there is glorious and splendor, right? And the character of the Most High. Okay. But we actually see this all over the place, right? So let's go over here because we see at the end, we can see at the end over here what this looks like, right? We know that this is the people of the Most High, because it told us that, from the jump over here, right? The bride. Let me show you about this bride. And then they got to talking about this beautiful city, which was the bride, which was the people, right? But we didn't just only hear about this in Revelation. Let's go over here. Let's go over here to Yeshayahu. Isaiah. Let's look at verse 11.
Oh, you afflicted one, tossed with storm and not comforted. See, I am setting your stones in antimony, and shall lay your foundations with sapphires, and shall make your battlements of rubies, your gates of crystal, and your walls of precious stones, and all your children taught by Yahweh, and the peace of your children great.
Oh, okay. We're going to read some more, but I want to talk about this real quick. It's interesting that we look at this over here and we even just think about, if we just even just think about how these, it's interesting when it talks about these rubies and these stones, these sapphires and crystals and things, these precious stones, they don't just appear from nothing. Right? These things grow from great pressure and a mixture of particular elements and pressure, right? These things are created under pressure, right? It's a process that happens in order to form these things. And then even when we look at this over here, it says, "Oh, you afflicted ones, tossed with storm and not comforted." Kind of just like how these jewels are formed is the same way that these people that he's speaking to are formed in the same way, right? Oh, you afflicted one, tossed with storm and not comforted, right? And then he starts talking about these stones. I'm setting your stones, but we already seen how the stones really are a representation of the people. The stones are make up the building, which is in the city, which comes down, which is the bride. And so we see the connection over here with this affliction, this tossing about by the storm and not being able to be comforted, as being a thing that's getting you from one state to another, right? And then the end result is you becoming these beautiful stones and things. But another thing is something I just was thinking about just right now. These things are in a particular place. They're not moving about, right? They get into the process begins, and that process keeps on going, right? It's not like they start the process and then they stop and like or move somewhere else and then come back, right? They're in the process, and once that process begins, I'm saying in terms of these stones who are buried in the earth somewhere in the bottom of some quarry, some mountain pit somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. They got to be dug out of the earth and ground in order to be found, right? And so they're in a particular place, and these things are happening to it, forming it and shaping it and molding it, right? But just saying all that just to say that once this process begins, it keeps on going until the end result is made. Okay, you read 13, so let's see here. 14 said what?
In righteousness you shall be established, far from oppression, for you shall not fear, and far from ruin, for it does not come near you. See, they shall indeed assemble, but not because of me. Whoever shall assemble against you falls for your sake.
Oh, hold on. What I want you to read? Oh, I always wanted down to 14. Okay, very good. So it said, in righteousness you shall be established, far from oppression. Okay, so now again, so we have these things that are being spoken of where it's talking about these things that are happening, oppression, and then how is comparing it to these other things that are happening, these precious stones which are formed from oppression, right? And then until you get to the place of actually being these things, right? And then it brings it back in 14. In righteousness you shall be established. That shall be your foundation, right? That shall be the thing that raises you up. Righteousness.
That's deep too, because you think about like these crystals and stones, it's pressure, and the only way when you think about it, for of course it's whatever amount of elements, but the pressure is so great that it heats up, because that's the only way to make these glasses and diamonds and stuff. So the pressure is so great.
Yeah.
It's like it almost turns into fire.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the only way that it comes out, and it took so much. But also too was key is the time it takes to make these stones.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a key thing to come back to, is the fact that the thing is it is a process. It is something that takes time, but it's also something that it's not something that's it's not like disjointed. Like once that pressure begins, like when you think about something that's heating up, it takes time to get to the place where it heats up. And then if it don't got no more pressure, then it cools back down again. And then so it takes more energy and more time for it to even get back to the place where it was at when it started to cool down again. And then to increase after that. And so again, when we're looking at this, thinking about this in terms of these stones, which the Most High is given to the prophet to tell to Israel, he's comparing his people to these precious stones. We have to think about the idea that, you know, there's no turning back once you get into that process, right? The process begins, and then you just supposed to just let the process just work. Right? Because when you don't do that, now you're working against the process.
It's going through the fire. Like,
It's going through it. And the fire is a natural part of it. We saying fire, but really that's just a chemical reaction that happens because of these things working together so fast. Like I was just watching one of those. I don't know why I like watching those little things where they put put different things in the hydraulic presses.
Okay.
Right, but when they're pressing down on, it's not like they don't got no torches or nothing, but just from a simple fact of you pressing down on these things, the particles don't got but so far to go, and then once they get so close together, they start rubbing, which makes friction, which makes heat. It's just a natural thing. And so, you know, when we think about extreme pressure, once all the spaces get filled in, now you got friction and now you got heat, right? And so all of these things are necessary. When we think about the finest metals or stones or what have you, pressure and what we could think about as uncomfortableness is part of the process. It's something that you can't deal without, but it's something that comes to an end. We see in 14, in righteousness you shall be established far from oppression. You started out with oppression. What talk started off with in verse 11, and you started off with no comfort, right? In verse 11, then by the time we get to 14, now that you have been established in righteousness, now you get to the place where you're far from oppression. So we see over here the process, right? But the process, the end result of the process is beauty, is beautifulness, right? It looks good. And so when we look at the priest represented that beautifulness in his attire, the way that he looked. He looked a certain way that exhibited, that exemplified beauty, because all of that beauty and things represented the Most High. And so when we look throughout the scripture, we looked at Revelation, we're looking here at the prophets, we start off in the Torah, we could go all the way back to the garden where the Most High is showing us things on earth that are representative of things that are in the heavens. Because eventually we're going to have these things be combined again as they were initially intended from the beginning. And so again, a particular look is indeed important. A particular look is important. Because it is something that signifies or points to the Most High. Again, when we think about these jewels, when we think about a diamond or a jasper or sapphire or amethyst, these things don't look like regular rocks. And it's not just about looking, right? They look different for sure. They do look different because they are different. And at a closer look, because you can have fakes, right? You can make glass look like a diamond, right? Cubic zirconia is like this huge. Is that real? Is that some kind of synthetic thing? Cubic zirconia. Is that synthetic? I don't know either. But whatever it is a thing that they could cut in a way to make it look like a diamond. But as soon as you get a closer look, like a jeweler, somebody who's familiar with these things, he knows. He might even have to, that's cubic zirconia. That's not even, right? And so although the external look is important, the internal thing is important as well, right? Because it's not like you can't just have the look. You got to have the thing that qualifies the look as well.
Yeah, it's a synthetic gemstone.
Oh, synthetic. Okay, yeah.
Cubine, crystalline.
So it's just some kind of manufactured thing.
Yeah.
So that being said, and it's not that hard to think about. You can just look away. All right. You can do all of the things that we do, right? But what we want to talk about here today is actually having both of these things in order, right? Not just the look, but the thing that kind of facilitates the look, right? Because we want for this thing to be to kind of grow from an internal thing to an external thing that is the result of the internal thing, right? Because again, when we think about the pictures, when we think about what it is that these jewels exemplify, again, they exemplify the character of the Most High. All right, let's look at some more of these scriptures. Got a lot of scriptures for you to read today. Okay, let's we need our apocrypha for this one here. I'll go to um, 6 and 12.
Wisdom is glorious and never fadeth away. Yea, she is easily seen of them that love her, and found of such as seek her.
Okay, very good. So we see over here wisdom. Now, wisdom, we know wisdom is the mind of the Most High. The wisdom is his character. When we think about Proverbs, when it talks about wisdom and all the components of wisdom, we know that these are things that point us towards understanding what the spirit even is. The spirit of the Most High, which of course is the character of the Most High. When we think about wisdom, we look over in Proverbs chapter 1 where it talks about judgment and justice and equity and subtlety and discretion and knowledge and counsel and all of these things are dealing with the character of the Most High. And so when we look over here where it says wisdom is glorious, we could also say the character of the Most High is glorious. Same thing. We're not saying nothing different if we was to say that. The character of the Most High is glorious. And so when we look over here now, the Apocrypha, although we can understand that these things probably were originally in Hebrew, all we got is the Greek. And so when we see this glorious over here, is probably giving you something from the Greek. So we'll look at that first and then move backwards. So if we look over here, this word here for glorious would be the Greek 1741, which is endoxos, which is in glory, that is splendid, noble, glorious. Okay. And so if we was to, let's see here, if we was to think about this word here from the Greek, the Hebrew equivalent of this word here is going to be, let's see here, it's going to be kavod. Hold on, what's the Hebrew word for the Hebrew number for kavod? Just so I can pull it up. I know what it is. I just want to put the thing on the screen there. Let's see here. What the number is. 3519. Okay, so this is the Hebrew equivalent. I want to look at, which is kavod here, which gives us the same thing. Weight, splendor, copiousness, glorious, honor. And so, again, we're talking about the character of the Most High is glorious. The character of the Most High is glorious. So let's look at this real quick here. Let's see if we was to pull this up here. Let's see here. Yeah. Look at this here. So the word for the Hebrew for kavod is a kaf. Let's see here. A kaf, a bait, and a dalet. Kavod. And then so in the ancient, we got this open palm. This open palm looks like this. It's like an open hand. We got this tent floor plan for the bait and a dalet, which is the tent door flap. Okay, so if we look at the open palm, this open palm that holds or allows the door to the house, this open palm that holds the door open to the house and allows the door or regulates the door to be open or shut, gives us the idea of something that is weighty or heavy. If I sat up here and I held my arm out for a long period of time, it's going to be as if I've been holding something that's heavy for a long period of time. And so the idea is weight is what we have with kavod, the idea of weight or something that is heavy. And so when we think about the thought that is trying to be brought forth with the idea of glory or honor as something that's important, it's meaningful, it's weighty. We think about the idea of honoring our father and mother, right? We there's weight that is connected with the position of a parent, and we honor those things that they say and require of us as children. And now we also know that another thing that is incorporated with this thing is light. And so if I'm in this enclosed house and I hold the door open, I allow for the light to come in, right? It's dark in here. First thing my wife does is open up the blinds when she comes downstairs to let the light in, right? And so when we think about a tent, which is going to be dark unless you hold that door open to let the light in. So when we think about kavod, also there's light incorporated in it. So we're talking about this weighty light. And so again, we think about the idea of wisdom. Wisdom is this weighty light that never fades. But again, that wisdom that is glorious is again the character of the Most High. And so when we think about all of these things, right, again, taking it back to the jewels, taking it back to these precious stones and all of these things, they are things that you're able to see from afar and know what that is. Now, when you get closer to the things, you get a better look, a better idea as to what it is, and you're able to prove it. You're able to know what it is, right? When you take that closer look at the thing, right? But still, you're able to see it from afar, right? It's not like this thing that's unrecognizable, right? It's a thing that's, on the contrary, it is recognizable. You're able to know what it is and see it, and even kind of appreciate and take awe. You just standing over. If somebody was to come in there and they had a big old shiny necklace with all types of jewels and things on it, like sometimes we usually have somebody in here who has shiny jewels and things. You can see from afar, wow, that is nice, that thing you got on over there, right? From afar, you can see it, right? And then again, you got to come closer to look and inspect it to see if it's real. But I'm saying we still are able to see this thing from afar. Okay, let's look at some more of this stuff over here, because if we look now at, let's see here, Ephesians. I gotta go out of this first. Ephesians 5:27.
That he might present. You got on this
Oh yeah, let me Let me just put this back on here and let me. Okay, go ahead.
It says that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish.
Okay, so we see over here. Oh, that's the here, let me put this on here real quick. So that's translated as, some people don't like these words, you know what I mean? I'm not the type, but I don't like to incite anything, right? So we see over here that this thing, he said, present to himself a glorious or splendid assembly or church, or called out ones, right? Look at this word assembly. In the Greek, it is ecclesia, but it's giving you the same thought. This word here, let's see here, keep losing it. 27. Translated as church is actually ecclesia, which is these calling out, or these called out ones. But again, if we think about the Hebrew equivalent of this word is going to be kahal, which is 1577. Excuse me, it's 6951. 6951. Here we go. Hall, assemblage, assembly, company, congregation, multitude. Okay, so if we look at this again, now if we look over here, let's look at these pictures. These pictures. Where I get my eraser out here.
Well, there's no clear whole screen little thing on there.
I know it's hard to erase that, ain't it?
Like, you gonna do the whole thing? Watching this thing, watching it. I'm like,
Okay, so we got the cough. We got the hay. And we got the lamed, kahal. Okay. So if we look at that in the ancient, you have the sun at the horizon. Right? You have the man with his arms raised, which gives you the idea of breath. And then you have the shepherd's staff. So kahal is this idea. You have the idea of gathering with this, with the idea of the sun at the horizon, right? The sun at the horizon is the gathering or the concentration of light at a specific point. And so you have the leading of the breaths, or the, if we're just going to say that breath is what we're made up of, the leading of souls to the gathering of a particular place. And so the idea of kahal we see over here. And so these ones that are led to gather together at a specific place, Ephesians is saying that those ones are being presented to the master as glorious, just like how we looked at before in Revelation when they were already in together with the master, because they were called there his wife. And so we see over here this connection with all of these things in terms of this gloriousness, this connection to the over here, whether we say the church or the assembly or the kahal, and this connection to gloriousness or shininess or splendidness, which is all connected with the character of the Most High. And so when we think about this splendid assembly, when we think about this splendid assembly, that splendid assembly was like unto the priests, right? That splendid assembly was like the jewels that we saw back in Exodus or in Isaiah or in Revelations. That splendid assembly was like the Israel to the nations, right? Because Israel to the nations is a nation of royal priests, as it says in 1 Timothy 2:9, or as it says in Exodus 19 and verse 5. Actually, another thing I wanted to look at in the fact that we just mentioned it, we look in 1 Timothy 2:9. You just read that for me there in the 9th verse.
Yeah, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set apart nation, a people of possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of the darkness into his marvelous light.
Okay, so we see also over here, we see, like we saw in the other verse, this idea of coming out or changing or transitioning from one thing to another, right? These ones here, this chosen race, this royal priesthood, the set apart nation, this people for a possession, has been called out of darkness, transitioning from darkness into his marvelous light. We went from one existence, one state to another, being in or being darkness, in and being in darkness and being darkness, to coming out of that darkness and actually being light. Just like when we think about these jewels that started off as just some rocks or some form of some little pieces of something or other, until they
Elements.
just some plain old elements, but because of the pressure that they perchance were allowed to go through, they were turned into these precious gems. And so we as his people, are the same in terms of the fact that we, through pressure, through circumstances, through discomfort, are made into light, which is the glory, which is the character of the Most High. And so we want to talk about something over here, because when we think about this, when we look at this idea of looking a way, right? When we think about this idea, of looking the part, right? We have to, think about some things in regards to that. So we go over here, because we can't be cubic zirconia, right? We got to be the real thing over here, right? We can't be this thing that just looks like. We got to look like, we're the thing, right? We got to look like the people of the Most High. We got to look like Jerusalem coming down. We got to look like this priest with the breastplate with all of the jewels and things on it, right? But at the same time, there's more to it, right? So let's look over here at James 19. Start reading over here at verse 19.
So then, my beloved brothers, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of Elohim. Therefore, put away all filthiness and overflow of evil, and receive the meekness, the implanted word, which is able to save your life.
Okay, so look at this. When we look at this over here, and we think about, what this is saying over here, we see that there is a connection over here between, something that happens when we're able to actually, we got to do some things over here, right? And so the putting away of filthiness and overflow of evil, right, is something actually that's going on internally, right? It's not just talking about taking a bath, right? We think about the overflow, even if we was to say the overflow of evil, you got to get filled up with evil in order for it to overflow, right? Right? Overflow is something that doesn't happen after the thing that already got filled up. And then it filled up so much, there's not enough space inside of it anymore where the things is falling out from it, right? And so it's saying over here in verse 21, putting away all filthiness and overflow of evil, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save our lives. That implanted word is what? The character of the Most High. It's the Ruach HaKodesh, right? Which with that spirit we not getting unless we got that broken spirit and that contrite heart, that meekness, right? And so when we think about this idea of, this idea of looking the part over here, not only is it this external thing that's going on, but there's an internal thing that's going on as well, right? But the priest, we go back to the priest, whether he was a professional or you can't say that he was just when he became the priest, it was just automatic that he knew all the things already. He most certainly was an amateur. He never did it before. But that didn't mean that he didn't have on all the stuff and he was doing all the things. It didn't matter that he never did it before. It didn't matter that he didn't really know quite how to do it efficiently and properly. He still had to put on all the things and he had to do all the things. Too many times, people will make excuses for themselves and inexperience be the excuse. Nobody's perfect. If you're using that as an excuse, that's borderline wickedness, because it's just an excuse, right? If I'm trying to do the best that I can do, I'm not making excuses. That's why these kids get on my nerves so bad when I sit up here and I talk to these kids and they sit up here and talk about some adversity that kept them from doing the thing that I had asked for them to do. I don't care about your adversity. I want what I asked for to be done.
Yeah.
Excuses are equivalent with wickedness. Okay, you hear that over there? Excuses are rooted in wickedness. Because if you're trying to do the thing, it's irrelevant, why the thing isn't done. A need for the thing to be done. And so if we're sitting up here talking about why we can't do this or that, let's talk about how we're able to do the things.
Right.
And so when we think about this idea of putting away all this filthiness and this overflow of evil and receiving with meekness the implanted word, this Ruach HaKodesh, is actually able to save your life if you allow the thing to work inside of you. Okay.
I think the key there is obedience. That's what
obedience. Right. So go ahead.
If you fighting it, you're not being obedient.
Mm-mm.
That's like correction, the children fighting against say parent because they're being disobedient. So the spirit come on, the righteous spirit try to change you, and you being disobedient still.
Mm-hmm. And even in what we're looking at, receive with meekness the implanted word. This word that's coming in you is trying to get you to move to the right. With meekness, now I'm able to receive it and just go to the right. But with stiff-neckedness, I'm like, nah, I need to be on this left-hand side, right? And so it's counterproductive. But at the first part of the verse is saying, put away all of these things and receive. So you're taking away these wicked, evil things, and you're filling those things with meekness and the Ruach, right? Which is able to save. And let's keep on looking over here. 22. What did I say?
And become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself.
Okay, so it says over here, it says becoming doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. If all you're doing is hearing only, you're deceiving yourself. Because in the Hebraic sense, you're not even really hearing. Because there's no doing associated with it. Right? Shema is about doing with obedience. So if you are a hearer only of the word, not only are you deceiving yourself, but you're not really even a hearer. Because a hearer, again, from a Hebraic standpoint, is actually a doer. And so again, when we think about this idea of looking the part, we're talking about somebody who is both looking the part from the outside and also from the inside. This person looks like Israel from far away, and then even upon further inspection, he continues to look like Israel. He continues to look like Yeshua. He continues to look like a mimicker of Elohim, as it talks about in Ephesians 23. Read 23.
Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and immediately forget what he was like.
I mean, when you think about that, when you put it in that way, it makes it seem so like it's so like if I was to go at a mirror and look at myself in the mirror and see, that I got some crust in my eyes or that I got like something in my nose or something, and be like, oh man, I got something in my nose. Let me get something to get it. And then I go get the thing, and then I forget what I even got the thing for. Like people who have these deteriorating minds, dementia and all of that. Like that's a disease. That's a disease to have. I'll be doing something. Oh, let me go over here and get this thing. Why did I get this again?
Right.
Like that's a problem.
Right.
And so the same thing is if I'm looking at myself, I see what the Torah does. It shows me myself. The Torah shows me that I'm imperfect because the Most High has a standard, has a character. He has a way for me to walk and be. And when I look at myself in comparison to that, the mirror, I fall short. But as soon as I go and try to get the thing that I need to wipe, get the wash thing to wash my face, by the time I get it, I done forgot. That's as ridiculous as what he's bringing up over here in James. If he looks at himself and goes away immediately and forgets what he's like, what he just saw, that's a problem. And so when we think about, again, the word, that implanted word that we received, that Ruach HaKodesh, is supposed to actually have and make an effect on you if you allow it through obedience to work inside of you. And so when we think about the idea of being a doer and not just a hearer, and allowing that spirit to work on the inside of you and cause you actually to do the things, right? Again, there is a way that we are actually to look and be, especially when you think about today, this idea of, coming out from this world, right? Coming out of Babylon, right? Coming out of, this world of darkness, right? Thinking about the priests or thinking about these jewels, right? A jewel compared to a piece of rock or something, right? There's a difference, right? And the one thing is differentiated from the other, right? Once you find this precious jewel, it's not just hanging out in the mud with these little pieces of rock or whatever, right? Or sand or dirt, right? It's moved over, right? Why would you want to sit up here and get all of this dirt and filth and stuff on this precious thing, right? When we think about what the priests had these jewels and they put it inside of, they encased it in this gold. The jewels was encased in something that was also precious. You know, too many times when we sit around and we see where, you know, from people, you know, that are supposed to be following after the Most High, followers of Yeshua, you can't really tell by looking at them or their life or the things that they mostly do, that they're different than anybody else. They look the same. They do the same things. They talk the same way. And so there has to be some kind of distinction, right? I need to be able to look over there and see what you're doing, and everything about it is this jewel thing, right? If you're set apart, separate, you're not just a hearer of the word, but a doer. That word is getting up inside of you and causing you to be different. Go over here real quick. First Peter 1 down at 22. What's that say?
Says, now that you have cleansed your lives and obeyed the truth through the spirit of the unfeigned brotherly love, love one another fervently with a clean heart, having been born again, not of corruptible seed, but incorruptible, through the living word of Elohim, which remains forever.
Okay, this word, this implanted word, is actually living. It's a living word, right? The living word of Elohim, having been born again through the living word, the word that gets in you and actually changes you. If you sitting around and you hearing all kinds of words, you hearing all kinds of living word, right? You getting together with folks and listening to YouTube or however you getting it. This living word changes you. That's what this says right there. Having been born again, having been transformed, converted from a spiritual perspective through this living word of Elohim. That thing that happens remains forever. Now that you have cleansed your life, now that you have cleansed your life in obeying the truth through the Spirit to unfeigned love. Okay, so we see over here there's a cleansing that happens, and there's obedience that comes after through the Spirit manifesting in actions over here. Loving brotherly love, loving one another fervently with the clean heart. All of this stuff is about being a doer, having the thing that happened on the inside of you happen on the inside of you and transform you on the inside and have you be doing other things. I don't know why that is down here. Get rid of that.
That's ours.
Okay, we'll hide it. Okay, so when we look over here, right? We look over here. Let's look at this over here because I want to look at this. Now that you have cleansed your lives. That word over there in the Hebrew, purify your, in the Greek, purify your souls in obeying the truth through the Spirit. So the Spirit, the things that is the thing that's done it, right? It happened through the Spirit, which causes you to have obedience, which purify your suke. Your suke. That's more Greek, right? But it's talking about your breath, your spirit. Look at this one here. This is the one we want to see over here. The animal sentient principle only. What's that sound like? your carnality. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like this right here. It sounds like your nefesh or your soul or what? Your animal vitality. Your appetites. Okay, here, let's look at this real quick. Let's make that be little. Let's look at this over here. Let's see this. I could I don't know why you had this set up there. Talk about me like that. Look.
That was just my ass following the whole thing.
Look, I can do it. I can do it. Look.
There we go. That's you.
We can just erase the whole thing like that. All right. Okay, so the nefesh right here. Let me make this bigger here. So the nefesh, which is the Hebrew equivalent of the suke, which is purified by the ruach. The nefesh is a nun. It's a pay. I always make the pay be upside down. And it's a sheen. And then so the ancient is this sprouted seed, which has the idea of continuance, the open mouth, and the two front teeth. Okay, so the open mouth continues to eat. The open mouth continues to eat or bite stuff, right? That is a full appetite. That's your nefesh. That's your appetite. That's your desires, the things that you want to do, the things that you want to be, your nefesh, your soul, right? Your inward parts, right? And so when we look over here, Peter's saying that this spirit cleanses those appetites. The spirit cleanses your appetites in obeying the truth through the spirit. It cleanses your appetites, and then it ends up in the manifestation of brotherly love and love for one another. So something's happening on the inside where I don't even want to be doing this or that anymore because of the spirit and my obedience through the spirit. And then it manifests itself in ways, namely brotherly love and love for one another. Okay, so again now, when we think about all of this stuff now, there is a way that we supposed to look, right? We're supposed to be looking the part. When we talk about looking the part in these verses over here, it's all the way over to here. It's this brotherly love. It's this love for one another fervently with a clean heart. But the only way that you got to this place to look in the part is this stuff over here. Right? That happened prior, the cleansing of your lives, of your soul, of your appetites, right? Through the Ruach. Okay? When we think about the cleansing of our appetites, Yeshua talks about these things, right? Which comes from the spirit. Yeshua talks about the fact that, you know, you hating your brother, you're guilty of murder. So it's more than you just actually going out and killing somebody. What is happening on the inside of you? That thing needs to change. Yeshua sat there and talked about having lust in your heart. It's just like going out and actually doing the thing. And so we see that it becomes necessary for something to actually happen on the inside, something like the cleansing of your appetites over here. Right? That's what looking the part is, right? It's not only just about you looking a particular way on the outside. We want that part too. But upon further and closer inspection, it's able to be seen that this one is both looks the part on the outside and the inside, because the things that you are doing are something that has been motivated from an internal change that has happened inside of you. Because if we look over here to Ezekiel 36 and 26. 26. What's that say right there?
And I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh.
A heart of flesh and
put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings, and shall do them.
And dude, this is the smallest word over here. I guess I is really the smallest word. But this is the second smallest word over here, but it's the most important one. He put the stuff in you, right? He's going to cause you to walk in his laws and guard them, his right rulings, and you shall do them. You'll do them. It's not just going to be something that's on the inside of you. It's not going to just be something that you just heard about. You're going to do the thing. This is a real word over here. It's not even like a little, let's see here. This is a real word. You'll do it. Asa. To make, to do in the broadest sense. Application, accomplish, advance, appoint. To become, bear, bring forth, bruise. Bruise, that's interesting. It's some hitting involved. It's some deep it's some deep impact that happened, right? It's something that is experienced. You're experiencing this character of the Most High and it's bruising you. Right? And so when we think about these things over here, the idea is that there is action involved. It looks like you're walking in righteousness on every level. We're supposed to look the part just like those priests did. Them priests that high priest was walking around and he looked like the high priest, boy. He had the things going on over here. Let's look at this. Look at some more of this. Let's look at Ecclesiasticus. Four and 11.
Wisdom exalteth her children, and layeth hold of them that seek her. He that loveth her loveth life, and they that seek to her early shall be filled with joy. He that holdeth her fast shall inherit glory, and whosoever she entereth, the Lord will bless.
Mm-hmm.
They that serve her shall minister to the Holy One, and them that love her, the Lord doeth love.
Mm-hmm.
Whoso giveth ear unto her shall judge the nations, and he that attendeth unto her shall dwell securely.
Okay, so we look at this thing. It's interesting. Again, we talk about wisdom. We talk about the character of the Most High, right? And so when the character of the Most High is being infused into you, there's something that happens as a result of that. There's evidence. Wisdom exalts her children, right? If you seeking after wisdom, you're going to take hold of it. If you really want to find wisdom, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
Wisdom's going to allow for herself to be found by you.
Mm-hmm.
When you love her, wisdom, you love life. He that loves her loves life. You love life because now you're experiencing life because you're experiencing wisdom, which again is the character of the Most High. But let's go down to, you read down through 16. Let's go down to 17. Look at this one here.
For at the first you will walk with him by crooked ways and bring fear and dread upon him and torment him in her discipline until she may trust his soul and try him by her law.
This is, read that one again.
This crazy.
We got to hear this one more time.
Crazy right there. This is crazy. For at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways.
Okay, so wisdom now is going to go through some experiences with you. Now you not really all the way you're not wise yet. But wisdom is taking you places though. It's taking you down some crooked places.
Okay.
Right? Wisdom is there with you, taking you through these crooked places. Guess what? I bet there's pressure over there with by these crooked places.
Yeah.
I bet there's some uncomfortableness over here in these crooked places. Right? And bring fear and dread up. You getting some fear up on you and some dread up on you as well. That sounds pretty oppressive to me.
Yeah.
Just how we was thinking about oppression before in the other place. And torment. In her discipline. This stuff is coming from wisdom.
Hey.
Wisdom was like, come on, let me take you down here real quick.
You want to see something?
Come on, let's go over here. Come on, let's go down here.
Got something.
And it is scary over here.
It's no joke.
It's all kind of fear and dread and all types of things. Torment over here. And wisdom gonna keep on doing that to you until she may trust your soul. That's crazy right there. Wisdom, if you don't get it, if you don't get this thing, wisdom trying to show you, first of all, you trying to see the thing. You going, because wisdom saying, come on, and you like, okay, I'll come with you. But if you don't get it, it say, and she may trust, what do it say? And torment him with her discipline until she may trust his soul. So she gonna keep on doing that with you until you get to the place where then wisdom able to trust you.
Let's look up that word discipline.
Well, this is gonna be, we got to go around about. We can do it because we gotta look up discipline in the Greek. We can do it. Because we got to look it up in the Greek and then go back.
Saying a lot right here.
But we got to understand this. When we want to sit up here and look away, it's a process. But you're actively going along with the process while wisdom is taking you to the places. And you're being tried and changed as it's going on until wisdom trusts you. Right? But let's look at this over here. If we look up this discipline in the Greek, we want to see it in the Greek, and then we could go back to the Hebrew discipline. Let's keep going there and get my Greek. It's a hold on. Oh my God.
discipline even in the Greek? You gotta look at the Hebrew. Discipline. This discipline shows up in Job.
I mean, I guess you could look at the Strong's, right?
Wisdom of Solomon. Discipline ain't in the New Testament? What? It's not even in it. New Testament.
Oh, wait,
Yeah, discipline is not in the New Testament.
No?
No.
Receipt. Please.
It only shows that.
Okay.
It only shows up in the Bible 3 times.
Ain't no Greek word for discipline?
That's what I'm like. There can't be.
Now it all makes sense.
Oh man.
Um,
And in the Bible it's only there 3 times. Yeah, see. When the Apocrypha shows up more.
okay, so when we think about so we can think about a disciple is someone who is learned. So someone who's led Lamed. The Lamed is led with might through the door. He's led with might in and out of the door. Right? So it's the Lamed, the Mem, and the Dalet. So he's the shepherd's staff. With that, there's leading and guiding and prodding with might, which is the water, and the door is movement in and out. And so let's see if we look at this. What is this here? So the word Musar is translated as discipline in Job, but that word is used 30 times as instruction, 8 times as correction. Here, let me pull it up here. Let's see here. If I go here, that word in the Hebrew is Hebrews 41:48. Musar. I was looking at this and see it's translated as discipline in Job, right? But that same word is translated 30 times as instruction. Same word, correction, chastening, chastisement, bond, chasteneth, check yourself, doctrine, rebuker, right? That word musar. So that's the mem and the vav. So you got a mighty, adding to or securing this fence that surrounds, a thorny fence that surrounds. The race is the man's head. So you got a mighty adding to or affixing to of thorns that surround a man's head. That's interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Strong's Musar, chastisement, reproof, warning, instruction, all of those things that we looked at, right? And so again, we go back over here to Sirach, chapter 4 and verse 17. We look at all of these things that's going on with.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That discipline. Say it. What was that? Say it again. It was like a thorny.
Oh, the ancient.
Yeah. You erased it already?
No, I didn't never write it. I just was saying it.
Oh, I see
Yeah,
it on the
let me
screen.
put it up
Sorry, I
here.
seen it. Cause that sounds like you should to me.
Yeah.
For some reason, that
Yeah.
description of it, how he broke down the
Yeah, so Musar, what was it? It was a mem. Musar was a mem. It was a vav. It was a samek. And a resh. And so in the ancient is a mem, which is water. The tent peg, it's the thorn that surrounds, and then a man's head. Go Afro. so the mem is, you got this mighty this might that is added to, that adds to the thorns that surround the man's head. So you have the might that adds to the thorns that surround the man's head. So if you think about, you know, the word is to chastise or to chasten or to discipline. You know, the thing that has to be transformed is our mind, right? And so in order for our mind to be transformed, it has to kind of, as we see over here, got to go through some things and have things added to and taken away from. We talk about the idea of this jewel that's going through this transformation of turning from this rock into this jewel, and there's pressure that's involved. So when we think about this idea of discipline, we can actually see the idea of pressure over here with this thing that we just thought about happening in the mind, in the head of man. And so this is the thing that's wisdom is doing, that you're allowing to be done as you go through the process. And it is a process because, again, we see with wisdom over here is it keeps on doing it until it trusts you.
That's deep, because it's like, is it wisdom trusting you, or you trusting wisdom at that point? Because now you got trusted too to submit to it.
It's I think it's both. It's a combination.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. You're being proved. So you being proved as the idea of wisdom trusting you. But you have to also be at the place where you're trusting wisdom. Because remember, wisdom's taking you a place, right? For at first she will walk with him by crooked ways. She's going with you. She's taking you by, and wisdom's bringing fear and dread upon you as you're going.
Because you're going to crooked ways, not the wisdom.
Well, you're right. Wisdom can't go to crooked ways
because of your crooked ways. Because of your crooked ways, that wisdom bring that fear and dread, because it has to correct your crooked ways.
Right. But wisdom is there applying the pressure,
right,
and putting the fear and dread in you as you're going through the thing.
Exactly, because you know now. It's like,
it's
like now you know why your ways are crooked.
Yes, the torment, the dread, the fear, and the torment.
Exactly.
And so all of these things are going on with her discipline, right? And so this is kind of tying all of these things together. When we think about the idea of the jewels and looking the way, it's a process, but the process gets you to a place, right? There's a transformation that's actually happening that you have to buy. You got to buy into the process, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't be in and out. We talked about that again, because you're gonna have to keep on. Once you leave, now you got to work up that heat again to build you back up to the place you was at when you left, right? And then go from there. And so when we look at all of these things over here and we see this thing that's going on, we see this transformation thing that the Spirit does within us that actually causes us to do and be the ones that he calls for us to be, right? But it's not without it's not without the process, right? And then we didn't even read 14. Then will she return the straight way unto him and comfort him and show him her secrets. Right now, after the trust is there, after we go through all of the pressure and the fear and the dread and the torment, and there's trust on both ends. We can trust in the wisdom, and the wisdom can trust in us. Now, wisdom going to show us all the secrets now, right? But we got to go through the process. We got to allow the process to happen, right? We got to understand that the Spirit has the living word, the implanted word is coming into us, and we're allowing for that implanted word to have its effect on us. That ruach, when that spirit becomes internalized, it must come out and become manifest in the the physical realm, right? It can't just be these things that's going on, these thoughts that you're having, these things that are going on internally. It has to be something that goes on the inside and manifests itself on the outside.
Absolutely.
And that's really what we've seen over here when we looked, at all of these verses, right? The priest was the priest. He was born into a specific family. But at some point, it became necessary for him to put on the things and to go and do the work. He couldn't just be the son of Aaron, right? He had to be the son of Aaron and then go and do the things that the son of Aaron does. Right? You can be a son of Jacob, right? You could be the son of Israel, but at some point, it's necessary for you to go and do the things that Israel does. And in our case, that is becoming a follower of Yeshua HaMashiach. Being a follower ain't just hearing about the things that he says. The thing is hearing about the things that he says and understanding that, oh, these things that he got to say is actually taking me to a place. Oh, these things that he has to say is causing me to look at myself a different way. These things that he says is causing me to understand myself from a different perspective, and it don't look right. I got to do something about these things that he's causing me to see. Having an understanding who Yeshua is in relation to you causes you to live a different way. right? When we think about that verse that we look at over here with wisdom taking us down through the crooked paths, right? That's our process of wisdom showing us these ways. And if we're liking the ways that wisdom is taking us in, then we're not looking at this in the right perspective, right? Because the crooked paths, going down the crooked paths, brings dread and torment and fear if we're looking at it through the eyes of wisdom. But then once we do that, and once we get to the place of trusting in that Ruach HaKodesh and trusting where the Spirit is leading us and guiding us, now the Spirit is ready to give us all the secrets, and we're able to know the things that the Most High has for us. When we've been proven, when we've been chastised and tried and gone through the fire and come out as pure gold and come out as jacinth and amethyst and all of these things, sapphire, jewels, the glory of the Most High, the character of the Almighty manifests in us and through us. So, kind of closing it out, when we think about the priest and his jewels and his attire, when we think about that city coming down, we have to remember that both of these things, whether it's the city coming down, whether it's the priest, whether it's us as followers of Yeshua, we have to be those examples, those representatives of Yeshua all the time, all over the place, being those ones who we're not out here denying our master by looking like the world, right? But we're looking like Messiah denying the world, right? If we're out here and we're walking around just looking like the world all the time, when we're doing that, we're denying the master. And if we deny the master before men, he's going to deny us before the Father. And so we got to be out here with our righteous and holy actions and deeds and hearts and jewels, being those right representatives for the Most High, especially in these wicked times that we're in. Okay, so that being said, anybody have any additional thoughts about any of these things here?
Let wisdom guide you.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So that being said, for now, I think we will be done for today. Y'all willing, be back on next week. I got finished up a couple things during the week, so we're gonna have a couple releases of some mid-week content. So go ahead and hit the like button and subscribes, the notifications, so you can get notified whenever these new things come out. Okay, so that being said, we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.